Hey everyone, and welcome back to Case Closed. Have you ever heard that saying, fame is a double-edged sword?
Mm-hmm.
Well, today's deep dive
Yeah.
takes us into the life of an actor who kind of embodied that very idea,
Okay.
Johnny Lewis.
Interesting.
You might remember him from shows like Malcolm in the Middle and Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, yeah.
But behind the Hollywood smile was a story full of complexities
Right.
and a really tragic end that left a lot of people wondering
Yeah.
what went wrong.
It's a question with no easy answers.
Right.
We're going to unpack a story that touches on mental health,
Mm-hmm.
the pressures of Hollywood, and that really difficult search for stability in a life that
Yeah.
seemed anything but stable.
Exactly. We've got a stack of sources here. Interviews,
Okay.
articles, videos,
Huh.
all trying to piece together the puzzle
Right.
of Johnny Lewis's life.
And what's fascinating is that his story isn't just about the downfall.
Right.
It's about the rise and the fall and everything in between. It's about a young man who started acting at the tender age of 7,
Wow.
landing commercials and guest spots on popular shows like Seventh Heaven and Drake and Josh.
Talk about starting early.
Yeah.
I was still playing with Legos at that age.
Uh-huh.
This guy was already
Yeah.
sharing the screen with Hollywood heavyweights. He was even in Malcolm in the Middle,
Oh, yeah.
which, let's be honest, was a comedy gold mine back in the day.
Definitely. He was definitely on a path to stardom.
Yeah.
And then came Sons of Anarchy, where he landed the role of Half-Sack, a character that quickly became a fan favorite.
I remember that character.
Yeah.
He was tough, but also vulnerable.
Right.
Kind of a lovable rogue.
Mm.
It seemed like Johnny was finally hitting his stride.
He was. But here's where things take an unexpected turn.
Oh.
Despite the success of Sons of Anarchy,
Right.
Johnny decided to leave the show after just 2 seasons.
Wait, he walked away from a hit show? That's a bold move, especially
Yeah.
when your career seems to be taking off.
It was, and that decision reveals a lot about the internal conflict
Oh, wow.
Johnny was facing.
Okay.
He was drawn to a quieter lifestyle, interested in poetry, philosophy,
Interesting.
and exploring his spiritual side.
Okay.
The violence and the grittiness of Sons of Anarchy clashed with his personal beliefs and aspirations.
It's almost like he was living a double life.
Mm-hmm.
The tough guy on screen,
Right.
the sensitive soul off screen.
Yeah.
That kind of internal struggle can't be easy to navigate.
Absolutely, and that struggle is a key part of understanding Johnny's journey.
Okay.
After leaving Sons of Anarchy, he moved into the writer's villa, a
Okay.
haven for aspiring actors in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
It was there that he formed a close bond with the owner, Kathy Davis, a woman known for her kindness and unwavering support of the young artists who called the villa home.
It sounds like he was trying to find a place where he could be himself,
Yeah.
surrounded by people who understood his creative spirit.
Right.
But then things start to take a dark turn, right?
Yeah. They do, and it starts with a series of troubling incidents.
Okay.
A motorcycle accident leaves Johnny with serious head injuries, and his behavior
Go on.
becomes increasingly erratic.
Mm-hmm.
Arrests for assault and burglary paint a picture of a man spiraling out of control.
So the guy who was once charming audiences on TV is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Whoa.
What happened? Was it the head injury? Was it something else?
Yeah.
I'm hooked. Tell me more.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Trying to understand what led to such a drastic change in Johnny's life. The motorcycle accident definitely plays a significant role.
Right.
We know that head injuries can have profound effects on behavior, cognition, even personality.
His dad even noticed a change after the accident.
Oh, really?
Yeah, described Johnny as agitated, not himself.
Wow.
It's like the injury flipped a switch and things just went downhill from there.
It's particularly troubling that Johnny refused to seek treatment
Oh.
for the head injury.
Mm-hmm.
His father urged him to see a doctor, but Johnny wouldn't hear of it. This resistance to medical help becomes a recurring theme in his story.
Almost like he was in denial about the severity of the injury.
Okay.
Or maybe he was scared of what the doctors might find.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to think he might have benefited from treatment, but never got it.
It's a common issue, unfortunately.
Yeah.
People, especially young men, often try to tough it out, downplaying their injuries or refusing to acknowledge the impact on their mental state.
But there were also concerns about drug use.
Right.
Some reports even suggest Johnny was under the influence of drugs during some of his arrests
Mm-hmm.
and even during the final tragic incident.
That's where things get a little complicated.
Okay.
Yes, there was speculation about drug use, and some sources even claimed Johnny was on PCP or meth during the incident at the writer's villa.
Oh, wow.
But the toxicology reports painted a different picture.
So the reports showed he wasn't on drugs.
Yeah.
That throws a wrench in the whole theory.
Hmm.
If drugs weren't a factor, what was? Are we talking about a mental health issue?
That's certainly a possibility.
Okay.
There were signs pointing to a potential mental health crisis.
Mm,
A doctor at the jail where Johnny was held briefly
right.
noted that he was exhibiting signs of a possible brain injury and even suicidal thoughts.
Wow, suicidal thoughts. That's a serious red flag.
Yeah.
Did anyone try to intervene?
Later, another doctor diagnosed Johnny with either schizophrenia or bipolar disorder and prescribed medication.
Okay.
But again, we see that resistance to treatment.
Yeah.
Johnny refused to take the medication.
Okay, so we've got a possible head injury,
Hmm.
a history of erratic behavior, and a potential mental illness that was going untreated.
Right.
It's like a perfect storm brewing in his life.
Hmm.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to consider. The custody battle over his daughter.
That's right. Okay.
Johnny had a daughter with his former girlfriend, and their relationship had deteriorated, leading to a heated custody battle.
Oh, wow.
The emotional toll of that kind of legal fight can be devastating, especially for someone already dealing with so much turmoil. Absolutely, the stress, the uncertainty, the fear of losing his daughter.
Right.
It's easy to imagine how that could push someone over the edge.
It's important to remember that these situations are rarely black and white.
Yeah.
We're talking about a complex interplay of factors that contributed to Johnny's decline.
Right.
The head injury, the potential mental illness, the custody battle.
Yeah.
They all played a role creating a web of stress and instability that ultimately led to tragedy.
So we've got this incredibly complicated situation brewing in Johnny's life. The head injury, the legal troubles, the custody battle, and the possibility of untreated mental illness.
Yeah.
It paints a really sad picture of a guy who was clearly struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But it still doesn't fully explain the violent outburst that ultimately ended his life
Right.
and tragically took the life of Kathy Davis, the owner of the writer's villa.
You're right. There's no single answer.
Yeah.
No one thing that explains what happened that day.
Right.
But what I find interesting is that even amidst all the chaos and turmoil in his life,
Yeah.
there were glimmers of the old Johnny, the one who valued peace and connection.
Like his friendship with Kathy Davis. He went back to the writer's villa even after his release from jail, even with everything going on.
Exactly. It suggests that on some level, he was still searching for stability,
Mhm.
for a place where he felt safe and understood.
Right.
And that makes the whole situation even more tragic.
Yeah.
We went back to a place where he found solace,
Right.
but ultimately something snapped.
And that snap is what's so hard to grasp.
Yeah.
We can speculate about the triggers. Maybe it was a psychotic break, a sudden surge of paranoia, or a moment of rage that spiraled out of control. But without being able to get inside his mind, we may never fully understand what led to that final act of violence.
And that's important to acknowledge. We can look at the facts, examine the circumstances, but we can't pretend to know exactly what was going on in Johnny's mind.
Right.
Mental illness is incredibly complex, and its manifestations can be unpredictable.
This isn't a story with a neat and tidy ending. It leaves us with more questions than answers. But maybe that's okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most important takeaway from these deep dives isn't finding a definitive solution, but rather grappling with the uncomfortable truths, the complexities of the human experience.
What really hits home for me is that Johnny's story is a cautionary tale. It highlights the importance of seeking help when you need it, recognizing the signs of mental distress, not just in ourselves, but in those around us.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even those who seem to have it all, fame, fortune, talent, can be battling demons we know nothing about.
This deep dive into Johnny Lewis's life has been a roller coaster of emotions. It's a story that makes you wonder what you would do if faced with similar circumstances.
And that's the power of these conversations. They challenge us to look beyond the surface, to confront difficult topics, and to engage with the world in a more empathetic and informed way.
So as we close this chapter on Johnny Lewis's story, we're left with heavy hearts and a lot to ponder. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember to reach out for help if you or someone you know is struggling.